The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavioral loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. I used to be able to divide my life into parts where I was having fun and parts where I was suffering, and there wasn't really much in between. Fun meant playing video games, being with friends or my girlfriend, and taking drugs. And suffering was everything else. I needed to constantly be stimulated in order to just exist in a peaceful manner, and everything else made me just suffer. I wanted to trip all the time. If I wasn't tripping or hanging out with friends, smoking weed, or just drinking alcohol, playing games, life was miserable. Going to school was the worst, and just being alone in my room without anything to engage with was agony. So then when I took psychedelic drugs or smoked weed, I was in a state of immense freedom and pleasure. And I remember this distinct feeling that says, I want to be here forever. I never want this to end. Now, what if I tell you, I hate when people say this, it's so stupid. I'm going to tell you, you can make your entire life like a trip so that you never have to suffer and can always be in this trippy state. This is the fantasy that I also had when I started to meditate and go into spirituality. The belief that you can somehow enter a state of human where you just always are tripped out and blissed out, and that you never have to suffer again, and all of life just becomes this trippy play. Now I'm telling you, this is possible. It is not an illusion. The illusion is how your ego likely imagines it to be right now. It's not how you want it to be. It's not how your ego wants it to be. It is not that you're always tripping as if you have taken the drug when you haven't taken the drug. That's not how it works. But the psychological process of dissolution, like your ego dissolving into awareness, is trippy. And the spiritual path moves through trippy phases. And during this process, you might notice, wow, life in of itself is trippy. And my ego is filtering this out. Because if I am constantly in this trippy state, like if I look at this microphone right now and I'm like, wow, how does this even work? Look at the beautiful blackness and its texture, and I wouldn't, you wouldn't function, right? It's just complete madness. So you cannot actually be tripping all the time, or you would lose your mind. You wouldn't be a functioning member of society. But there's an in-between where I can look at this microphone and have the childlike awe of this being a microphone that works and how it works, and be curious about it without being tripped out of my mind. And you can be in silence without any stimulation, without anybody engaging your mind, and be extremely peaceful, like as if you had smoked some weed or be tripping on psychedelics, where there's just this peaceful calmness. Doing dissolution processes, this is intense, and it might also be intensely uncomfortable, because drugs, like you likely know, are not always comfortable. They also reveal stuff to you that might make you anxious. Weed especially tends to do this, where people get paranoid and try to distract themselves from their own thought loops. When what weed is doing is it interconnects the subconscious parts of your brain and reveals to you underlying issues or underlying dissonances. It might make up the reason for why you're feeling how you're feeling, because reason can be a wide variety of things, depending on the person and depending on your makeup, depending on how often do you consume stuff. But overall, it tends to reveal subconscious material, and so does psychedelics, and so does meditation. That's why you can apply a meditation method to relatively easily bring you in a stage of trippiness. And for you, in order to do this, it's not going to sound fun, but there's a very easy meditation method or technique that will bring you into the sense of trippiness. And you're not going to believe how effective it is. But what I ask of you to do is to do absolutely nothing at all for 1 hour. Have you ever done this? Like, have you just sit in a chair and done nothing? You might say, how the hell is this going to bring me into a sense of trippiness? Well, first, you will have to overcome the hurdles of your mind screaming at you that you are supposed to be doing something else, that you're wasting your time, and that this moment is not satisfying. It's this feeling that the moment isn't satisfying that will always haunt you if you're not able to overcome it. Because this is the key of what the ego actually is. It is unsatisfying. It will look for desires and cravings and life goals and a partner and a career and purpose and meaning, anything to not just let you chill out. And if you then take a substance, the ego goes to the side, and then suddenly you're not thinking about all of the stuff and you're just peaceful. But you're using a substance as a mechanism to move something away that you can do completely on your own without any substances at all. And you will be surprised of how trippy this can be. You will find points of your awareness that are deeply troubling. Suddenly, you feel like you have an intense urge to cry, or to hit somebody and rage, to start running, or to cease to exist. The ego will throw at you memories of the past, about stuff you feel guilty about, stuff you feel ashamed about. You will process so much stuff simply from doing nothing at all. If you have the courage and see through the parts that are uncomfortable, I promise sooner or later you will start to notice your awareness is doing weird things. I can't count how often I have been present in this way in the past, and then after a certain time, I sensed an immense rupture in my experience. Immense joy, a sense of unity with past versions of myself, connections with my childhood self, memories of past relationships that I was grateful for, immense joy for just being present and alive, feeling that the sense of breathing in of itself is pleasurable, air on my skin feeling like a miracle of existence, laughing manically while crying because I couldn't believe that anything existed at all. All this stuff is a process of the ego processing, its own dissolution and how it lies to itself all the time. And think about it logically. When you are sitting and doing nothing at all, and then your brain comes up with an anxiety about the future, you are now disconnected from reality because you're imagining something that doesn't exist yet. You're thinking ahead about a future that isn't there. And that's what the mind tends to do. It is worried about the future and worried about the past when both of these things are not real. Like, they're not real anymore. There only exists a present awareness that flickers in such a short moment of time that you think it's not what reality is like. You think reality is how you think about reality, or your own story about your own life. But if you are really honest with what it's like to be, it's that there's this awareness there that never stops, and it's always present, and it's what you are. And all you do is distract yourself from how intense it is and how much there's to feel in it. And it's going through this and removing distraction that you'll figure out that life is a trip. And that joyful sensation of a child being in bewilderment of nature, in bewilderment of water. Like, I have this childhood video of me just playing in a pool and then just picking up water and then dropping it, and then just looking with this amazement of how does water work. And it's not that you will find the same way of amazement necessarily as an adult because you have a deeper, like maybe scientific understanding of things, a more pragmatical understanding of things, and to a certain level being like grounded in reality and not being amazed about the simplest things is useful. But for moments of time, by doing nothing, you will notice how much you take everything for granted. How you take for granted that you have a heart beating and lungs breathing and millions of molecules working 24 hours of the day trying to keep your body alive. We take everything for granted because we think that our human reality is like the baseline normal reality, and that's just how things are. And then we get used to the sense of solidity. But the sense of solidity, like that this is a material, physical, solid world that we are interacting with, is very much related with how solid your own ego is and how little you are willing to change. And then when you have a shift happening, like a burst in your own awareness or in your own ego identity, then suddenly you notice that nothing is solid, everything is impermanent, everything withers and dies and changes, and you are not even the same person you were 3 years ago or 5 years ago. Death's inevitable, and all what's happening is this intense sense of flux. There is a convergence now that happens between scientifically interested people and Buddhist, spiritual, mystical types, and they are connecting right now through psychedelic substances, because the spirit molecule, what's often called, which is DMT, for example, pretty consistently brings you into states of consciousness that you cannot just explain away. Like you can try, but it's like explaining away your own pain. If I chop off your finger and you are crying in agony, and I tell you, well, these are just synapses in your brain. It's not actually happening, right? It's just your brain hallucinating pain, or it's your brain making up the sensation of discomfort because of survival and biology. And what are we talking about, right? We are trying to explain away something that is in its immediacy unexplainable. Like if you feel something, you just feel it. There's nothing to talk, like you can talk about it, you can investigate it, you can understand it deeper through language and through understanding the scientific nature of pain, but in its immediacy, it has no explanation. You just have to feel it. And what we're trying to do is explaining away this immediacy that we just have to feel. And then we cannot believe that just by doing nothing at all, the brain actually moves closer to the sense of feeling and awareness. So you're actually leveling up your own consciousness. It's not mystical, it's biological. Now, if you have investigated a lot about the nature of reality, your own psychology, what it means to be alive, how can you relieve yourself of this constant overthinking and your own suffering, but you feel like there's no way you can move through this barrier and understand, okay, why do I still feel this way when I've spent so much of my life trying to investigate the nature of myself or existence? I can analyze your own ego and understand where it is that you're getting stuck, where in your psychological journey you're having a blind spot that, you're not resolving, which is a very fun thing to do, although it, challenges a lot of assumptions. I explain exactly how my process works in the page in the description below. I commend you if you're able to, just spend 1 hour alone without doing anything, not engaging with anything, and then seeing what it's like. If you are able to train yourself to do this a few times, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, I can promise you that something will happen. I can't tell you what it is for you that will happen because I'm not in your body and I haven't meditated 1 hour in your body. But the effects that you can experience, you wouldn't believe. There's something to be said about the dangers of doing this as well, because you might suddenly be confronted with negative experiences of your past you thought you had long overcome. It's of the uttermost importance that you let yourself feel things. And if there's a moment where you become scared of something, see it through. Stopping when you're starting to feel uncomfortable is actually the worst moment to stop, because it's exactly at the other side where you go into a deeper layer of your own psychology, and yeah, you can find something about just raw beingness that is rather pleasant. But it always, or almost always, comes at the other side of some discomfort. Like bliss and suffering are like the same coin, but at the other side. And you kind of move from one to the other more often than not until you calibrate into the middle where things are just peaceful. I cannot tell you how often I cried doing meditation. Like I cried so many times. There were certain phases in my life where I started to have this huge opening, I would say, in my frequency field. These are words that I normally never say. Because I don't even know what is this supposed to mean, frequency field. It's all quite silly, but in my energetic body, I just got so overwhelmed with emotions that I cried for days, and this crying was blissful. Like, it was very pleasant. It feels like a relief where you finally notice, okay, wow, my body is processing something that I had no idea was in there, and the body does remember. And yeah, our modern understanding of what happens there is very limited. This new renaissance of consciousness that we are in right now slowly is starting to reveal that a lot of Buddhist and Indo-Tradition traditions were right about this stuff. And it's through immediate experience that you start to validate it for yourself. You cannot validate it by reading scientific papers or reading religious texts. It's really just like with the DMT stuff. You go through it yourself and then you're like, holy